Surprise! Tonight's movie is featuring your very own Pastor Mike, who traveled all the way from Barre, Massachusetts to be with you. As you can see, I wore a little costume today. It is a soccer jersey from the Middle East, Fenerbahce, rah rah rah. I am hoping someone dressed up as SpongeBob, who is my favorite character of all times. I think you should get extra prizes if you did that. I'm here to discuss with you a very important topic tonight, and it is this. What's up with all these Christians going to church? Now, I think if we don't know what church is all about, then I would say we don't know a lot about ourselves as Christians. So by asking this question, we can also learn more about God, more about God's plan for all people, and more about our place in the world. So today I want to go through 3 questions with you that have to do with our topic today. There will be one short video for each question, and then you'll have discussion time in between each one. The 3 questions are this. What is the church? What is the message of the church? And what is our role in the church? So the first one, what is the church? Now I think before we can understand what the church is, we have to understand what the world is. Ta-da! And to understand what the world is, we have to go to the first book and first chapter of the Bible, Genesis chapter 1. That is the chapter which talks about all the things that God made. Now, this book was written a long time ago to people who were very different than us. Many of the people who were the first people who would have heard about Genesis, they weren't Christians. They believed in many gods, and they believed all of these gods lived outside the Bible. But Genesis 1 says something different. It starts by saying that the world was formless and empty, which is another way of saying that the world had no order, it had no purpose. So when God starts bringing order into the universe, he begins by creating light. And then God calls the light day. But have you ever asked yourself, why didn't God call the light light? If light is light, why did he call it day? Well, God called the light day because God was creating time. He was creating a way for us to understand the difference between day and night. And the whole first chapter of Genesis 1 shows how God brings order into a world that previously had no order. It was chaos, it was crazy, and God was bringing in order. And then it says in Genesis 2:2-3, that by the 7th day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the 7th day he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the 7th day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. When the original audience would have heard this, this is what they would have done. Whoa! Because they would have realized that gods only rest in temples. Temples were originally built as a place for God to rest in. It was a place where God rules and rests and lives in. So when God says that on the 7th day he rested in the world, that means that in the beginning God made the whole world his temple. This meant for the first time that these people realized there's not just a bunch of gods out there. Instead, there's a God in the world. He's here with us. Psalm 132, 7-8, and 13-14 says this. Let us go to his dwelling place. Let us worship at his footstool, saying, Arise, Lord, and come to your resting place, you and the ark of your might. For the Lord has chosen Zion. He has desired it for his dwelling. God says, This is my resting place forever and ever. Here I will sit enthroned as king, for I have desired it. So this passage shows us that when God is resting, God is also ruling. So Genesis 1 tells us about the world, and it shows us that God is in control of it. When God created the world, he created it as his sanctuary. So the world became a place that he ruled, and it was a place where he was to be worshipped. The whole world is God's sanctuary. So Genesis 1 is all about the fact that the world is God's sanctuary. And the church is simply God's home within a home. And actually, we find out that the church, which is our spiritual home within the world, will last even longer than the world. God tells us that one day he will make a new earth, but he says that the church will never perish. The church will never die. The church, which is a home within the home, will last forever. So the church is the thing that God will always protect and will never let die. And the church is beautiful because it is the place where we declare without fear how beautiful our God is and how worthy he is of our worship. The church is beautiful because it is a place where God's people come together to worship God and to be encouraged and prepared to show others how beautiful God is. So the church, this is the first thing we learned. The church is a beautiful home within a home. Okay, now break. Let's go into discussion.